All right, gonna get started. What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp, managing editor, FightfulMMA.com. If you guys are not at FightfulMMA.com, you should be. I'm trying to see if we were on the air before we thought we were on the air, Joe. We almost gave away some news that we shouldn't have given away yet, but that was almost a little awkward there. But Fightful MMA, FightfulMMA.com, live coverage every week because UFC has a show every freaking week. That was the case this past weekend. It is the case this weekend with UFC Vancouver and UFC Mexico City. Joe, what's going on, man?
Same old, man. Interesting event in Vancouver this past weekend. Interesting results. Good performances, some solid performances by some newcomers, but we'll get to that in a moment.
Yeah, UFC Vancouver, I mean, it was built around one fight. That's what mainly people cared about. But I thought that the card wasn't that bad. The main card was all right and had some I don't want to say star power, but had some relevant fights on it as well. And I'm excited to talk about that. I'm excited to talk about some MMA news. We're going to preview UFC Mexico City. Let me just tell you, folks, I will not be here for a post-show of that. Wow. There are more ranked fighters competing at my house this weekend than on that show. My God. But we got news last week. Zabit was pulled out of a fight. It's been rescheduled for UFC Moscow against Calvin Kattar. Boy, that's got to be best case scenario for Zabit, right?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, it's good for him, but it sucks because we're definitely looking forward to seeing him compete. But I feel bad for Calvin. You got to travel out there. You're going to be understood. You're going to be some hostile territory. But even it doesn't matter where you would fight Zabit. Like, that kid's amazing. So Qatar's going to have his hands full regardless whether it's in the States, Canada, Brazil, Mexico, or in Russia. So irrelevant.
Also, Robbie Lawler faces Santiago Ponzinibbio at UFC 245 per report. I like this fight. It makes a lot of sense. And honestly, welterweight fights that make a lot of sense haven't been something that the UFC has done in like the last year and a half. But over the past couple of weeks, they have. Between Diaz and Masvidal and this one, that's on the right track. I dig that.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought it's Robbie Lawler at number 13 and Ponzinibbio at number 7, right? So it's 7 versus 13. Lawler obviously trying to stay relevant. I mean, his name will always keep him relevant, but he's dropping down the rankings here and there. Well, Santiago really hasn't competed too much, and he's staying at number 7. He actually moved up without even competing. Darren Till dropped 1, and Santiago moved up to number 7. So it's going to be a good fight, and we'll see what Santiago, how he deals with the pressure when it comes to Robbie Lawler. We'll see how Robbie Lawler does once again against somebody much younger than him.
Some under-the-radar news, or more of an event that happened. Phil DeFries, who was a prospect, undefeated prospect who made his way into the UFC and kind of lost his way out. He went 2-3. And then things weren't going that great for him outside the UFC. He lost to Thomas Denham and Satoshi Ishii. He had a rough go of it in several fights over really the next 4 years, 3 or 4 years after he left the UFC. He did get wins. So he avenged that loss to Thomas Denham. He beat Brett Rogers. Effectively, I believe, just sent Brett Rogers down a path of no return, and really, we've not seen him be relevant since, though he fought a little bit. However, he stepped into M1, Bellator, and KSW and just reinvented himself over the past 2 years or so, and he is a 33-year-old heavyweight, so he's got plenty of time to do that, but he had his third defense of the KSW Heavyweight Championship. He beat Thomas Narkin. He's beaten Luis Henrique. He beat James Thompson in Bellator, and he had that M1 win. This is good to see, Joe. Somebody who, quite frankly, he was like 4-6 over 10 fights. A lot of times at heavyweight, people don't recover from that. We don't see a lot of Andrei Arlovsky stories where people get back to the UFC as a heavyweight. It's good to see this out of Phil DeFries.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be longtime MMA fans or UFC fans that know the name because he hasn't competed in the UFC for the better part of 6 years.
Yeah.
So he left the UFC. He went on a kind of an okay run until October 2017, and just rhymed off all these wins, winning the KSW heavyweight title and successfully defending it, like you said, 3 times. So I'll be interested to see what they're paying him. right? What they're paying him over there to see if it's worth him getting back to the UFC, or they've got a champion now that's defending that title and continually winning. And he's putting in consistent work. He fought twice in 2018, twice this year already. Remains to be seen if they can add him again to a year-end show if they're going to have one. But other than that, he's been a good company guy for them. So they might be like, listen, man, like we want to keep you here. And if the money's better for him competing and defending the title at KSW than going back to the UFC, who knows what's going to happen.
Tyron Woodley says that he wants to fight Kamaru Usman, then Colby Covington, then move to middleweight. I don't know if that's a great way to get a middleweight title shot or a welterweight title shot. It's saying that you'll immediately move to middleweight, like one fight later. Also, I don't want to see him fight Kamaru Usman ever again. Like, I don't need to see that. It's not going to get any better for him unless they're both like 70 years old. Then he might have a chance. I don't like this, but I do like the idea of Woodley going to middleweight. I think he could make some noise there, or at least he could try to make some noise there. He isn't getting any younger. What do you think, Joe?
Well, I mean, that whole thing about wanting to fight Khabib, I didn't even finish reading the headline. I just scrolled. I was like, no, that's not what's going to happen here. That's doing nothing for Khabib, nothing for the lightweight division, and only benefits you, hypothetically, but then all the risk is on you. So he's got some work to do if he ever wants to fight Kamaru Usman again. I know he's still ranked number one, and he was the champ. There were people that were calling him the greatest welterweight of all time. I was like, okay, like there's so much.
A great one, yes. The greatest. Yes. That is total recency bias, as you often bring up. I mean, my God, George St. Pierre ran the gamut. He dominated that division, and it wasn't even close for a very, very long time. LFA.
I just want to see. I want to see him compete against someone at 170. But if he wants to make that jump to 185 pounds, so be it. There's plenty of guys in that division that would be more than happy to take him on, and I'm sure he could give a lot of problems to a lot of people. But if you go up and down those rankings, I don't know how far down you'll stop and realize, okay, you know what? All these guys would give him a hard time leading up to number whatever, right? So.
We have Kevin Lee saying he's going to return to the lightweight division. I think this is a bad idea, but unfortunately the guy is stuck in limbo because the UFC won't do a 165-pound division. And to be honest with you, if they won't do a 165-pound division when Conor McGregor wants them to, I don't know when they are, Joe.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, if the guy that moves the ultimate needle for you, you won't bend for him and create something that even the unified rules or the ABC has allowed, has endorsed, has said, okay, you can do it, they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. It sucks, and I think they should because, I mean, the influx of talent in there. The reason why I like it is because, I've never wanted the UFC or MMA to be, an alphabet soup of champions. There's so many divisions like boxing, and you don't know who's junior welterweight, super welterweight, blah, blah. I get that, right? But there's a big gap between 170 and 185 pounds. I would like to see, 155 to 170. It's 15 pounds. Or same the other one as well, right? I'd like to see a 10-pound difference between weight classes. And the influx of people that would go there would be fantastic. You would get small welterweights and large lightweights meeting in the middle. Why not? I don't see why not. But it's we've beaten this drum and this horse down way too long. I don't get it. I don't know why. I think it'd be great because there'd be a new champion on this roster the minute they introduce the division.
Yeah.
You could have a 4-man tournament with the winners taking on each other for the belt. Simple. Done.
Why not? I think that would fit very well, and I've been begging for it for a long time. Cody Garbrandt says he's a win away from a title shot. Realistically, should he be? No. But realistically, is he? Yeah, because it's the UFC. I don't have to agree with it, but I don't have to agree with the sentiment, but I have to agree with the statement. It is the UFC's bantamweight division. I think that Dominic Cruz, Cody Garbrandt, even TJ Dillashaw, I think when he comes back, I think he'll be one fight away from a title shot. All those guys, because the UFC loves that carousel. But you disagree, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, when he said that, I said maybe in Bellator. You're not getting a title shot in the UFC.
Well, let's be honest. He's 0 fights away from a title shot in Bellator.
Right?
Find him a Pitbull
Plus
brother.
Or minus half.
Find him a Pitbull brother. Line him up. Main event. There you go.
Yeah, Cody Garbrandt's got some serious work to do. Maybe not massive work, but serious work to
Yeah.
do to even get a title shot, in my opinion, only because of the losses that he's endured. And some of them have been brutal. When he learns that he's that good of a fighter that he doesn't have to play with fire, that he can be technical, he can use his speed. I think he could be a champion again in this division. But right now, the way he competes and the way he fights, no. And I understand he might, bring up the fact that he lost a guy that was juiced up or whatnot. That's a fair argument. But you want to compete. You're number 9 right now. You've dropped a ranking. Not that I agree with that, but you're number 9 right now. You've got a couple of fights in you to get to that title, not one.
Now we have a story that ties in pro wrestling, MMA, even your hometown of Toronto, Joe. Anthem Sports and Entertainment, which own Impact Wrestling, quite frankly, a struggling pro wrestling entity, have purchased a controlling interest in Access TV. This, formerly owned by Mark Cuban, aired just tons of regional MMA in the States. And I mean tons. It was their top programming for years. There was Inside MMA with Kenny Rice and Boss Rutan and Ron Kruk. It looks, and I can't say for certain now, it looks like all the MMA content is hitting the bricks. This is kind of sad, Joe. I mean, the Inside MMA thing, I saw the writing on the wall. Unfortunately for Kenny and Boss and that group, who did a great job and had a fun show, it was a little bit of a different setting, and you had the UFC Tonight of the world, and really even Ariel Helwani's show on MMA. People on Mondays, people could tune in, they could watch it. The podcast boomed, and Inside MMA went away. Regional MMA, I don't know how well you can replicate that, but I know one thing. Guys like Dana White and Flow Combat, I don't even know if Flow Combat's still around broadcasting events, have no idea. Yeah. Rufkin, whatever the hell these companies are doing, they got to be like, okay, maybe we can pick this up. Maybe we can pick this up. Because here's the thing, Joe. One of the reasons why regional MMA is so successful on platforms like Fight TV is because if you have buddies that can't make it to your fight, say I'm Sean Ross Sapp and I'm in Kentucky, I'm fighting in Georgia, they can't make that trip. Well, you know what they can do? They can show me that support by plopping down that $15, using my code, and buying the thing. And that's Bellator employs that strategy by booking local fighters on their big cards. What do you see this doing for regional MMA, Joe? Because it is a hit. It is rough to lose that platform.
I think losing that platform is one thing, but you just provided a fantastic suggestion, right? Potentially a great answer, right? Fight TV gives people the opportunity. And like yourself, I don't know a thing about Flow Combat. I'm not going to be lying to you, and it's not anything personal. I just don't know anything about them to address that. But when it comes to Fight TV, I've been on Fight TV for a while now.
I have confirmed they do still exist. Sorry to interrupt you.
No problem. So the platform is there to put these events on. You just got to structure a deal with Fight TV, and I think it's fantastic because as a promoter, when you're holding events in whatever region you're in, you always incentivize the fighters. Hey, listen, the more tickets you sell, the more you get paid. Here's your base, here's your show money, here's your win money. But if you sell X amount of tickets, I'll give you a percentage of those tickets sold. If you can structure a deal with Fight TV where it's sort of the same thing, I'm not saying Fight TV would do this, but how sweet would that be? Because the example you gave was fantastic. You live in a specific city. You're called out to fight somewhere else. Your friends can't make it. They want to support. They buy that ticket or that pay-per-view using your code, and then Fight TV can disperse that code to the promoter that gets dispersed to you or directly to you, right? So there's ways around this. Now, I was sitting, again at home in my living room thinking to myself, do I really need cable? Like, all I really need cable for real, for myself, I'm not speaking on behalf of my wife or my son, is live sports. And nowadays I can get live sports online for free with a subscription to something, whether it's DAZN or whatever it may be. So the whole landscape of media, how we consume media visually is changing with the whole television, cable companies, and just and networks in general sort of falling without live content, because anything VOD or POD, whatever PVR, whichever way you guys describe it down there, that's the way it is. I spend a lot more time on YouTube and on Netflix because I want to watch what I want to watch at that moment, not what I'm told is on at 8 o'clock on a Thursday. These are my options. So I'd like to watch what I want to watch, whatever theme is in my head for that day or that week. So I think it's changing. But for live content, there's nothing better than live content. Let's be honest. It's real. You don't know. It's unpredictable.
Can't replace it. You can't replace it.
Right? So now it's a matter of where can you watch it, when can you watch it, and via what medium. And there's so much now that's happening online that people got to buy their smart TVs and take it from there.
Well, UFC Vancouver happened this past weekend. Austin Hubbard defeated Kyle Prepolek, unanimous decision. You had Chaz Skelly defeating Jordan Griffin via unanimous decision. Hunter Azure defeated Brad Katona. Miles Johns over Cole Smith. Then you had some finishes on the show. Luis Smolka continues to look good. He's one of those guys. We talked about Phil DeFries earlier. He fought his way back into the UFC.
Yep.
Luis Smolka got right back to work and fought his way back. And then on the prelims, you had Augusto Sakai, a top 15 fight, if you believe it or not, knocking out Marcin Tybura in under a minute. What stood out to you on these prelims?
The Smolka McDonald fight was kind of weird. Smolka was just, I know it's early in the event, right? Like there's not that many people there, as opposed to a full house. And it was just like he was going through the motions until he landed that monstrous punch and then eventually finished off McDonald. That was kind of cool. You mentioned the knockout between Augusto Sakai and Tybura. Weird, just a weird sort of, Sakai's got that power, let's be honest. And Tybura didn't want to engage him. And as soon as he did, he got popped. It was game over in less than a minute. So I enjoyed both of those fights because of the finishes. But other than that, the rest of the fights were okay. But it's the ones that we're about to talk to that really got my attention.
Misha Cirkunov defeated Jim Crute via submission, a Peruvian necktie. I love this. I'm surprised it hasn't been adopted by pro wrestling yet. I popped when I saw a Peruvian necktie get a win like it was 2009 again. This was so cool, and this went back and forth. This was a good fight. And I'm not holding anything against Jim Crute. He's 23 years old, facing a top 15 light heavyweight. He will be back, Joe, but this was fun.
I obviously, being a Canadian, I'm very happy for Misha Cirkunov. But I do think that, did you see him after after Jimmy Crute tapped? Misha looked exhausted.
Yeah.
You're you're in less than 4 minutes and you're exhausted. I was actually surprised at how Crute was able to push him around it a few times. But that's Misha Cirkunov's game. I think Misha should continue doing what he's doing. And DC Daniel Cormier kind of hinted at it, saying, stop striking.
Yeah.
Don't strike. This is your game. Striking is your backup. Striking is to set up your takedowns, get your takedowns, dominate your opponent, and work a way to win the round. And if a submission presents itself, take it. Peruvian necktie is obviously one of my favorites. We used to do a fight school on that on the TV show. I forgot who it was that choked me out, and it was Kenny Florian or somebody. But yeah, fantastic submission. And anyone that knows submissions in general, it's going to happen right before they bring the leg over, and it's tight, man. If it's tight and you can get it even from the mount position or the top position, it is super tight. So poor Crute suffers his first loss, but good on Misha. Which his post-fight interview was better, but other than that, good for him.
Number 12, Uriah Hall defeated number 13, Antonio Carlos Jr., a.k.a. Shoeface, via split decision. This went exactly the opposite of the way that I said it would go. I said if it went to a decision that this wouldn't work. It did. Uriah Hall ended up winning a split decision, and he deserved it, Joe.
100% he deserved it. But if anyone out there should sit there and believe that Uriah Hall has finally found the elixir that's going to make him consistent, no, it's not going to happen. I think he put on an amazing performance, in the first round with his jab, and being able to defend the choke the way he defended it, B in the second round with the incredible punches and the way you saw that blood coming out of Antonio Carlos Jr.'s face in that replay they kept showing. But in the third round, despite being dominated and having his back taken for, was it 99% of the round?
Yeah.
He survived. Not many people could say that they can get Antonio Carlos Jr. on their back and ever survive.
In the preview, I even said that. I was like, man, that's his go-to. That's what he wants to do to you. He wants to take your back, and he wants to choke you out. And now we're seeing Antonio Carlos Jr., who stepped into the UFC and had, admittedly, a weird, inconsistent go of it. Like, he won the Ultimate Fighter 3. He lost to Patrick Cummins. He had the Casey eye poke and all that stuff, and he lost again to Dan Kelly. But since then, he had reeled off 5 straight wins and against pretty tough guys. I consider Spicely, Marshman, and Boach tough guys, even Marvin Vettori. Like, most people that are outside the top 15, Joe, they're going to lose to at least one of those guys in that consecutive order, even though they might not be the greatest fighters in the world. Now, Antonio Carlos Jr., after missing 13 months, has stepped back and lost to Ian Heinisch and Uriah Hall, and they have both outlasted him. What does that say to you about Antonio Carlos Jr.?
Well, it's got me a little nervous. Not too nervous because he's only 29, but this is a guy that's been, he was heralded, by yours truly, by yourself, by a lot of people as a guy to watch out for in this division en route to a title shot. He's taken a massive step back now. 2019, unless he can fight one more time before the end of the year, is a losing year for him. He's on a 2-fight losing streak after being on that 5-fight winning streak. So it's tough to say what to think of him right now, because he took a guy's back and dominated him in one round, couldn't finish him off, also had his back in the first round, and wasn't able to finish him off. No one thinks of Uriah Hall, or no one thought of Uriah Hall before this fight as a master submission defense competitor. And anyone in their right mind knew that if Antonio Carlos Jr. Shoeface got Uriah Hall's back, it was game over. Well, not anymore. So it's hard to dissect something like this. And as always, let's not get too crazy with the recency bias and think Uriah Hall now should be fighting Israel Adesanya, who we called out. No, not yet. No.
He has won 3 of 4. You know what? He gets a couple more wins. I don't hate the idea, but
nope, not at all. I like it.
But you gotta do more than winning 3 out of 4. Paulo Costa blasted ya a year ago, brother. Blasted ya. Before that, before he got on this winning streak, he had just jobbed out to the top guys. Robert Whittaker, Derek Brunson, Gegard Mousasi all beat him. You know what? I'm glad. I do wish, as I mentioned, Uriah Hall would pull the trigger more. That's always my thing with him. When he pulls the trigger, he is overwhelming, and he's running out of time for that to be a thing.
Thank you.
He's 35. Right. Because, hey, here's the thing. He pulls the trigger on Israel Adesanya. Israel Adesanya is probably going to dip the punch and hit him with a head kick. He pulls the trigger on Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker probably throws an underhook in, then pushes him off a little bit, throws a body kick, the old pants shitter as we call it, and Uriah Hall's doubled over. I don't believe that he can do that against the top levels. Do I believe that he can throw something and then perhaps beat someone? Well, yeah, because we saw that with Mousasi. But we also saw what happened when Mousasi fought him again. So that was a good win for him. You want to talk about good wins. Tristan Connolly defeating Michel Pereira. Now, Pereira is a guy who rightfully was signed to the UFC. He did lion salts in the cage, off the cage, to get into the UFC. Then here, he does a gymnastics routine. Now, Joe, in pro, it's so funny. Like, pro wrestling pundits will be like, those flips, those moonsaults, they're not realistic. You can't do that in a real fight. Well, Michel Pereira just showed you that you could.
Yeah.
And it's not always going to work out for you. But also, it's funny because oftentimes people will say that, and then they won't say anything about the fact that somebody grabs a chin lock, don't have any hooks in, don't have a hip blocked, and these elite wrestlers are supposed to sit there. Oh, no, how do I get out of this? That's less realistic than what I saw here. Now, Michel Pereira learned a lesson here, I hope. He gassed himself out, Joe. And I got to give him some credit. He had a lot of ways out of that fight. He had a lot of opportunities to roll over and die in that fight, and he didn't do it. Whew, I got a lot of questions about this, Joe. Do you think he learned a lesson?
2 lessons. Make weight.
Yes, that too.
Make weight. And the second thing is, so I saw a lot of criticism for what he was doing in the octagon afterwards, or even during. But I said to myself, all you critics out there can shut up, because if he lands anything that finishes the fight, you're going to herald him as one of the greatest in this division. Like, give him a title shot, because look at what he does. He's a fantastic fighter. He took risks. unfortunately, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm nowhere near this dude's shape, I start trying to do that kind of stuff there, I'm gassing myself out real quick. And for a guy that couldn't make the weight, and Tristan Connolly fought an amazing fight and
He did.
keeping that pressure, making him gas out. So it's a lesson learned that you can try and do that stuff, risk versus reward, of course, but you better still have gas in that tank when it's all said and done.
Tristan Connolly, okay, so this time last week, I didn't think he had a chance. Really didn't. When Pereira missed weight, I thought he did have a little bit of a chance, but I still thought Pereira was going to win. I got to say this. Good for Tristan Connolly for several things. He got his 12-12, presumably, to fight and win, right? $24,000. He gets 20% of Pereira's purse. Then he gets $100,000 because he got both sides of that bonus money. I thought for sure the UFC would only give him half. So we're talking right here. My God, Joe. Assuming Pereira makes only 12-12 as well.
124K.
Yeah, 124K at least. Then the 20% of Pereira, which is an extra probably 3,000 maybe, plus whatever Reebok gives him. He might be looking at close to 130,000 before taxes. That is life-changing money. If I got handed a check for $130,000 right now, I would respectfully end this podcast and go house shopping and buy a house. That's what that might mean for him.
Yeah, look at it this way. If on Saturday somebody tells any one of the listeners or those that are tuned in right now live that on Saturday you're going to get a check for $130,000 American. Like, how sweet would that be?
Oh my God, he's Canadian too. That's like $7 million there.
You know what? I'll tell you right now what he got.
I know the conversion rate's like 75 cents American to $1 Canadian dollar. I'm very aware of the exchange rate.
I just exchanged some American money. He just got $165,000 Canadian.
Whoo, boy.
Yeah. I know what I would do with that money. Woo. First house I see down the road that can be sold that's worth a rental. See ya. I'm putting a down payment on that, and I'm keeping that sucker as a rental and get that money coming in every single month, John.
Good for this guy, man. He has like 1,000 followers on Twitter. He's fighting his ass off. The guys
and his gym is hopefully going to be getting a massive influx of new members. Hopefully.
Think about that. In Vancouver. Not only in Vancouver, on the main card, Joe.
Good for him. Good for him.
Great for Tristan Connolly. Brother, I'm sorry I doubted you. He is 33 years old. He'll be 34 this month. Let's be honest. 34-year-old welterweights getting into the game in the UFC don't tend to last that long. All the respect in the world for Tristan Connolly. Make your money. You know what? I hope he steps in. I hope his next opponent misses weight, and I hope he beats them, and I hope he gets a fight of the night then, too.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Doesn't he fight at 155?
I thought that was at 170.
No, that was at 170, but doesn't he compete at 155 in general? I think he moved up a weight class for this one. I could be wrong.
Yeah. He's the RFC lightweight champion.
Yeah, so imagine this guy with a full training camp. Let's see it.
Yeah, he's a 155er who fought a guy who should be at 185 and beat him.
Yeah.
Good for him. Elsewhere on the show, Todd Duffy, the worst luck in UFC history. And, of course, you're always going to have those dumbasses that are like, he was looking for a way out. I don't think he was looking for a way out. I think he was looking for anything because he couldn't see. I don't think after this long that Todd Duffy is looking for a way out, but he needs to look around and read a little bit more because one of his complaints was MMA media doesn't put enough of a spotlight on fighter pay. And I'm like, have you read like Bloody Elbow lately? They are covering UFC fighter pay as per a lawsuit. It's been talked about over and over again. Go through and watch any episode of Ariel Helwani and Luke Thomas on the MMA Beat. Any episode where we literally have a segment called How Much They Make for the Love of God. That was weird, but Todd Duffy is still winless in the UFC in like the last 732 years, and that's unfortunate for him.
Did you feel in looking at that fight he wanted out?
I didn't.
No?
Because he could have let himself get tapped out, I guess. I'll tell you what, if he did want out and he denied his opponent his win bonus, that's dick. That's shit. Do the honors, so to speak. At least make sure somebody gets their win bonus. Preferably you. Hey, you're a heavyweight. Throw that big thing attached to your arm at somebody's head, and there's a good chance you might knock him out, no matter how tired you are. I don't think he wanted his way out.
I kind of felt like, gassing? Are you gassing right now? Right? But he's had some bad luck. I mean, I can attest that this guy's a really good guy. I'm only just saying that because I'm looking at like, are you tired, dude? If you're tired, I can understand you want out. But if you're seeing double, yeah, it's not good. But hey, man, it'd be nice to see these two guys go at it again. But it sucked the way it ended. What's that? The second week in a row or third week in a row, and eye poke has caused a MMA fight to stop with the Ryan Bader and Czech Gongo thing. So yeah.
So in that fight, or for Duffy, it's like I think that if he wanted out, he could have just waited the extra minute and said that he tore his knee up or something on the stool. I mean, he could have done that. So I don't think that he did. I hate to say I told you guys so. Glover Teixeira defeated Nikita Krylov via split decision. That first round submission also almost came, Joe. Yep. But Krylov didn't just roll over and die. Krylov did compete with Glover Teixeira, and this was a closer fight than I was willing to give credit for. But I just didn't see a way that Krylov was going to win this fight, but he almost did. It was very close. He did very well. What did you think of Krylov's performance and Glover Teixeira remaining relevant in this division?
I think I'm going to give a lot more credit than I should to Nikita Krylov.
That's
because
fair.
we keep ripping on this guy, but I think surviving with a guy like Glover Teixeira, despite Glover being a little older right now, is good. It's very good. Glover again continues to prove that he can go with these young bucks, right? So I think he did do enough to earn a decision, not a split, but he earned the decision. Glover did. But yeah, Nikita showed a bit of improvement. I'm liking it. But don't mess with the old guy, man. Dad strength. Dad bod. Well, not dad bod, but, man strength this guy has. So good on him.
Yeah, I'm glad that Teixeira is hanging around. I mean, Krylov is Krylov. He's going to be there. He's going to have his sarcastic fans that don't really like him, but pretend that they like him and all that stuff because he's so bad that he's good type of thing. And somehow wins fights. Like, I don't know how it happens, but let's be real. He's 27 years old. Plenty of time for him to return and do well and all that stuff. But he's lost 2 of 3 since coming back to the UFC. As it turns out, Emmanuel Newton and Fabio Maldonado aren't exactly as good as one might have thought. But Teixeira has won 4 of 5 now. And he's beaten Ian Cutelaba, who I think is very good. He beat Karl Roberson. He beat Misha Serkinov. He's won 3 out of 4. And this is one of his best runs since he got to the title. Because you could say that after he lost to Phil Davis, he came back and he beat OSP, Cummins, Rashad Evans, and Jared Cannonier. That was a very good run. I'm not ready to say this one's better than that. But considering the fact that he's 4 years older now, maybe it's more impressive. Glad to see him still at the top of the division, or at least near the top.
No,
Justin,
just
go ahead.
You mentioned Maldonado. Can you believe I'll be calling a Maldonado fight? He's fighting in Ryzen.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
He's fighting Yuri Prohaska for the light heavyweight title.
That is amazing.
That'll be fun. Sorry, go ahead.
Main event: Justin Gaethje beat up Donald Cerrone. Jeremy Lambert was talking to me about this. He said, man, Cerrone's been too hittable. And I had Cerrone picked, and then you talked me out of it by the end of our preview last week. I thought that was very well done. And you were right. Justin Gaethje just clocked Cerrone. Cerrone went face down, ass up. Gaethje is asking the ref to stop it. Now, here's the thing. I get it that they're buddies, but you got to fight until the ref calls it, Joe.
100%. You got to keep going. I think he's just more upset that he wanted to fight. They're friends, right? They're
sure.
or not. Maybe they're not buddies, but they're at least associates, acquaintances, whatever you want to call it. But at the same time, I can understand what Justin was saying. But the referee's got to do what the referee's got to do. If he doesn't sense that fight is over just yet, people criticize referees so much. I'm like, go try and do it. Like, shut up. Go try and do it. See how hard it is. It's still Cowboy. You still want to give Cowboy the benefit of the doubt because of what he can do to turn around a fight. But at the same time, you've seen him take his knocks. You've seen him get dropped. The Darren Till's fight comes to mind. You just never know. And it's almost like Cowboy's been running on fumes lately, and they've been crazy. He's been taking a fair amount of abuse lately. But good on Gaethje. Gaethje continues to do what he needs to do to rise up this division. Excuse me. I mean, you take a look at who he's lost to. I mean, Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier. And to discuss what's next for Justin Gaethje is tough. What do you do with this guy? Because he's not getting a title shot. He's Ferguson. Unless something crazy happens with Ferguson and Habib, Justin Gaethje is sort of in no man's land. He's potentially going to have to do a rematch to determine. He might have to fight Poirier. Right? It's tough to say what's next for him. There are some options out there, but I mean, Felder, Iaquinta, he's got to go down to keep his spot, right? And I think he's earned a title shot, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do think he's got to wait out Ferguson and Habib. That's the thing. There's no fight but Ferguson and Habib. I don't buy that he doesn't want to fight Conor McGregor because, Joe, he wanted to like 3 months ago. The fight was set behind closed doors, and the only reason it didn't happen was because Conor got hurt. And the thing is, if Conor had the fight announced, then got hurt, I think the fight still would have happened because it's Conor McGregor. Yeah. But I don't buy it. I think that he would and should fight Conor McGregor because why not?
Well, reverse psychology, right?
Yeah.
What did he say? The Irishman's retired. Not interested.
And
right?
what is Conor McGregor saying right now without saying anything else? He tweeted Dublin, Ireland, December 14th. I don't doubt at all that's Justin Gaethje.
Right? Listen, you give me Gaethje and McGregor, I think it's an unbelievable fight for so many reasons, so many questions, so many answers are going to come from that fight. Like, if Gaethje annihilates Conor McGregor, what do we want to do with Conor McGregor from here?
Yeah.
If Conor McGregor comes in and who hasn't won a fight in 3 years, only fought once in 3 years, comes in and destroys Justin Gaethje, like this, the MMA world will be, back on fire again, right? So this is a fight that would be absolutely fantastic, but I'm not holding my breath, Sean. I'm not holding my breath for this fight.
Yeah, Gaethje is, I think, is prime for that spot. McGregor, I got to see McGregor training. I don't see anything. Here's the thing. It's of my opinion that if Conor McGregor were training, there'd be pictures everywhere. He'd be posting them, and SBG would be posting them, and all this stuff. And that's not what I see often. I don't see footage and all that stuff. I see, like, some random stuff of him outdoors at his house. I don't see anything of him in the gym. I don't see any of him training with actual people. And I'm scrolling through right now. I can't find the last time there was any indication that he has been in a gym. It looks like June 1 with his hand wrapped up big. Obviously had heard it ahead of the Gaethje fight. Yikes, man. UFC Mexico City, Bellator 227. Let's go ahead and talk about Bellator very quickly. Ben Henderson headlines against Miles Jury. Ben Henderson at minus 280. Miles Jury at plus 200. I think that's a fine line. We also have Bellator Dublin, which is the same damn show. I don't know why they split them up. I don't get it. Michael Page is on the card against nobody that has a Wikipedia page. Yeah. James Gallagher against Cal Eleanor. A couple people that this company wants to get wins, and a show that, Brandon Gertz against John Tuck, and honestly, probably the second highest level competitive fight, and it's a guy who's 16-8 against a guy that's 10-5. This card is whack, Joe.
Why is this card being put on? I don't understand half of this stuff. I get it because of the relationship they have over there, but when a host of a
podcast, $100 a month or $100 a year for DAZN for,
yeah, I mean, it's when a podcast host says, "Dude doesn't even have a Wikipedia page," people need to look further into that and understand. Certain fights shouldn't be happening. Certain events shouldn't be happening.
I get it. They want Page to win so bad.
Of course. But go up and down this card, for example, on Wikipedia, and there's only 5 guys with Wikipedia pages, and there's 30 fighters, I think, more.
I'll tell you what I want to know. Why is it that this Bellator show has there are 3 fights with lines. Michael Page, a minus 530 against Richard Kiley, a plus 350. Cal Eleanor, plus 305. James Gallagher, a minus 425. Because they split up the betting odds because Bellator split up. It's so dumb. But Combate has 12 fights with betting lines across all sports books. That's weird to me. Like, is Combate saying, like, hey, let's start some betting lines here. Let's get this going. I mean, I'll tell you what's funny. They aggressively send me PR stuff, and their PR lady, his name is Dina White. So I see that, and I'm like, who? Who is? Oh, okay. But Dana White is promoting a show from Mexico City this weekend, and it's got some interesting names. Let's get into it. Claudio Puelles is a minus 255. Marcos Mariano, a plus 215. Paul Craig, a plus 100 against Vinicius Moreira, a minus 120. I think that fight actually might be pretty good. You have Ariana Carnelosi, a plus 120. Angela Hill getting another crack at it at a minus 140. I like that. You have Tyson Nam, a plus 260 against the minus 320 Sergio Pettis. Some fights early on here. Pettis and Angela Hill, some names that stick out. Vinicius Moreira, another one. I think that fight will be good, but I have Pettis winning here. I have Angela Hill winning here. I have Moreira winning here. And I have Claudio Puelles winning here. What do you think before we get into some other fights that nobody knows about?
Well, the Craig Mohea fight's going to be actually pretty good. Don't count out Tyson Nam just yet. But Sergio Pettis is going to have to bite down on that mouthpiece and pull off his technical skill and really, in my opinion, get a finish in this fight to just start continuing, just to get some more buzz around him, if you know what I'm saying, right? Because he can't go to the decision against Tyson Nam, and it's not going to be easy to finish Tyson, but we'll see what happens. As I've always said, huge fan of Angela Hill, just doesn't sit down on her punches. Maybe it's the body type that she has. She can't generate that power. I'm sure. I wouldn't want to get punched in the face by her. Yeah. But when you look at the way she competes against her opposition, she can't seem to get that knockout. So I'm not really paying. I wouldn't put 5 on that fight. Maybe I should on Ariana because Angela can't seem to generate that power. So Carnelosi might be able to pull this off. But again, it remains to be seen.
I'll tell you who I got 5 on. The minus 255, Sijara Eubanks. Taking on Betch Correia, a plus 215. If Sijara Eubanks doesn't win this fight, I don't know if she belongs in the UFC at all. I have her winning this in a wash, Joe.
There are division gatekeepers, then there are UFC career gatekeepers. She has to be able to beat Betch Correia. I think she will, but I don't think you can. I'd always like to know
Betch Correia is the broken latch on the gate that everybody just looks at and laughs. They're like, this ain't keeping the dog out of the yard. Come on now.
I've always wanted to know what the UFC matchmakers actually think of her.
She beat some horse women. That's what it was. She beat some of Ronda Rousey's friends, and she got a title shot. That's what happened.
Yeah. So I got Eubanks all day in this fight here, but you damn right I'm going to watch this fight because just anything related to Betch Correia is awesome. I'm sorry. I just get such a kick out of it.
Kyle Nelson, a minus 125. Marco Polo Reyes, a plus 105. Not a great line there, but I actually have Reyes winning that fight. You have Carlos Joaquin a plus 130. Jose Quinones, a minus 150. It would not surprise me to see Carlos win that fight either. Then Martin Bravo, a minus 110. Steven Peterson, a minus 110. That is a pick'em, and that is a good fight. That should be a very fun fight. On the main card, I think it's a main card, you have Askar Askarov, a minus 170 against the plus 150 Brandon Moreno. I think you always give Brandon Moreno a little bit of shot, but is that line wide enough? I don't know. But on this show, perhaps so, because there's not a lot of wide betting underdogs here, Joe. Anything out of those? And then Irene Aldana, a minus 470. Vanessa Mello, a plus 375. It might be worth it just to take a flyer on that, but I don't know, considering it's Aldana.
Yeah, I would. Well, when it comes to putting 5 on it, Brandon Moreno's, I think, a live dog, especially considering, a lot of people have slept on him because of his recent skid. Askarov's fantastic, but, Moreno's probably going to be rejuvenated competing in Mexico City, right? Other than that, I think Quinones does emerge victorious. I wouldn't put 5 on Joaquin, although you do believe he might be able to pull it off. Again, it's one of those situations where that Latino blood might be on fire in Mexico City. So both of those guys might be looking at doing something crazy. And the Bravo Peterson fight, I think, is good at a pick'em, right? That's one of those fights where it's like it's people aren't paying attention. It's relevant to the division, maybe not for a while, but it's a solid fight for sure.
Carla Esparza recently came off of a losing streak against 2 top people in Suarez and Gadelha. She has won another fight, and she is facing the inconsistent Alexa Grasso, who hasn't exactly taken off the way that UFC wanted, but she took over a year off, came back, and beat the crap out of Karolina Kowalkiewicz and looked great. Looked like she was realizing her potential there. The betting odds have Grasso at a minus 120, Esparza at a plus 100. I think Esparza's winning this, and I think she'll do it. I don't want to say one-sided, fairly one-sided. Esparza has shown that she knocked off Marina Moroz and Cynthia Calvillo, and UFC thought they were going to be something. I don't think Esparza's done or anything. She's done at the championship levels, I believe. And Grasso's kind of just getting started. And based on what we saw at the Kowalkiewicz fight, I think she's finally realizing that potential, and I have her winning here.
Minus the main event. Let me just go up and down this card one more time. I think this will be fight of the night. I think Grasso Esparza is going to be fight of the night. I think people are sleeping on what these two ladies have done more in the past than consistently recently, and I bet you this is going to be a firecracker of a fight.
Yeah, I dig the fight. I don't think it should be second from the top. I get it. They're in Mexico City. You got to have something else, though. Oh, this card. Stevens versus Yair Rodriguez. Let's go ahead and get into that one, as Stevens is a minus 115, Yair a minus 105. This will be a good fight. I mean, it's Yair Rodriguez fight. But also in that, it is very hard to predict because it is a Yair Rodriguez fight. And my wife goes, who's fighting this weekend? And here's the thing. She doesn't ask, is there a show this weekend? She says, who's fighting this weekend? And I said, Yair Rodriguez and Jeremy Stevens. And she goes, who is that? And I was like, well, funny you mentioned that, because that's how one of them is most famous, is someone being asked who they are. Stevens has lost 2 fights in a row, Joe. Mm-hmm. He's never been a champion. He's never competed for a title. When you lose 2 fights in a row, I really don't think, unless you're Conor freaking McGregor or you're John Jones or your GSP or your Daniel Cormier, you shouldn't be headlining a show. Second from the top. Nothing wrong with that. Yair Rodriguez, at the very least, has shown that the only people that beat him are people like Frankie Edgar. He gets in trouble. But my God, he can overcome almost anything. He's won, I think, 7 of 8 fights in the UFC. I don't see Jeremy Stevens taking this, but I do see Jeremy Stevens having that veteran advantage of being able to capitalize on when Yair Rodriguez does flippy shit, some Michel Pereira shit. That's a tag team. Pereira and Rodriguez.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah, how do you see this one going?
Tough to say, because there's always a fight from the opening bell to the final second when Yair Rodriguez is fighting. Just look at what he did to the Korean Zombie with that 1 second final reverse elbow that he landed to finish him off. So that fight, he's always live. He's always live. But Jeremy Stephens has a way of punishing anybody and everybody, with the exception of, if you can go up and down his resume. I mean, he lost to Zabit recently and Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo was very motivated in that fight, and Zabit just got that kind of skill. So, Stephens has been around. He'll know what to do when he competes, in quote-unquote hostile territory. I think it's going to be a blue-collar fight, but I do think Yair Rodriguez's speed, length, power, and precision will get just a bit too much out of Jeremy Stephens, and I think this one ends somewhere in the third or fourth round.
Now, we had somebody asking why we previewed Bellator 227 this weekend. Next week, we're going to have a lot to talk about. The MMA show is going on a bit of a hiatus for a little while. We'll explain that, talk about some memories next week, and we'll preview the much better-looking Bellator 228 from Inglewood that is actually a good card. We'll talk about UFC Fight Night Copenhagen, and we'll also talk about the upcoming, I think it's a UFC 243 show. So we have a loaded show next week. We will be going on hiatus after that, but we'll still have post shows. We'll still have some videos here and there, some interviews, things of that nature. But Joe, what do you got going on this week?
Same old, Sean. Same old. Thursday's game for the undefeated season. Big game for my boys. We go undefeated if we emerge victorious.
Are you going to pull a Kobe? Did you see what Kobe Bryant did?
No.
He coaches a girls' middle school team, and he was like, well, here's your fourth place team, and posted a picture on Instagram. And he, a few days before, they had won by like 100 points. He was like, one girl on the team decided she wanted to go to a dance recital instead of this game. And I'm like, damn.
I've got some problems with a few of my parents. Let's just say that their boys are on the cusp. It's tough as a rep soccer coach to have to cut players because of the parents.
Yeah.
But I'm leaning towards the keeping the kids and some way somehow keeping the parents at bay. But if you're not showing up to big games because you would rather go to an amusement park when we're playing a huge game and our undefeated season's on the line, you can't be trusted, right? So, and there's other things that went down. But other than that, I see what Kobe's saying, what Kobe's doing. But no, if we emerge victorious, even if we lose or we tie, I am going to post something on my Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook about this team, because as a coach, I know I'm never going to be able to say that I've gone undefeated in a season again. Right? Even though they're only 8, 9, and 10, this is a huge thing, and we've ruffled a lot of feathers, Sean.
It's everybody's collective work.
Yeah, we've ruffled a lot of feathers, my coaching staff and my boys and I. So there's a bullseye on our back for the winter indoor season as well as the outdoor season next year. So we're excited.
Well, guys, thank you all so much. Leave a thumbs up. Make sure you guys subscribe. Also, scoot over to youtube.com/Fightful MMA Boxing. You can see clips of the show. You can see our post-show reviews up there. We have individual fight reviews, a little bit of all that. And, hey, if you're around for if you're around watching UFC and you want somebody to chat about with it, we have a great community over at FightfulMMA.com. Hundreds, if not thousands, of comments. Make sure you guys follow Joe at Joe A. Ferraro. Follow me at Sean Ross Sapp. Till next time, we're out.